And we're back. Hey, Max.
Hey, we recorded?
Yep.
Oh, hey.
So what'd you think of the new Dune?
Yeah, we're here to talk about Dune. 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 Or as I just called it, Dude, where's my sandworm? Oh yeah, no, I just thought of another joke before we begin. You were saying that that the Baron Harkonnen was great, right?
Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, he's one of your favorite actors, right?
Yeah, I really like him in Girl with a Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, well, Dune also had another one of our favorite actors.
Who's that?
Or your favorite actor.
Who's that?
Jason Momoa. Eliott does not appreciate Jason Momoa.
It's because he can't act.
Because he's never seen Khal Drogo.
Well, I heard, you throw these things out there, like Khal Drogo. Who's Khal Drogo?
Well, we're talking about Dune. Everyone's got to know what a Khal Drogo is. All right, yeah, so Dune, I guess we'll get into lots of details, but...
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to do nothing but spoilers, but what we're really going to do is spoil the movie for anyone who fucking liked it.
Yeah, no, I'm not exactly as negative as you, but at the end of the day, I did not think it was a great, amazing... super.
You just described it as
brilliant.
A sandwich served with bones on it.
Yeah, no, I did. And so, yeah, no, just to get my initial idea about Dune out of the way is I didn't hate it, and what actually bothered me about it was not things that it did, but things it did not do.
I totally agree.
Whereas when you look back on 84 Dune, Alan Smithy, David Lynch Dune, there's lots of goofy, silly... horrible moments where you're like, oh my god.
It's very cringy.
What the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, but that movie is entertaining now. In retrospect, it's kind of like a cinema darling now.
Sure, but what my point is, New Dune doesn't do anything. There's not a moment in New Dune where I'm like, oh, that ruined it for me. This movie's awful. The problem with it, for me, more has to do with emotional tracking. Yeah. Emotionally tracking with the characters, pacing... Despite the movie being 2 hours long,
2.5,
I felt like it needed to be 4 because I just felt like there was so much more. Even though it is just the first half of the story, I feel like there was just a lot of stuff I still needed, like in terms of emotional satisfaction. Because I thought the movie looked good.
It does look good.
There's scenes that I really like in it.
It's got some cool shit.
But ultimately, it didn't all culminate in wow, that was an awesome experience for me. It was more like, oh, that looked cool, but I feel emotionally malnourished at the end. I didn't get what I needed or wanted from it. There were some scenes that tickled my intrigue, and then it just kind of It's just kind of wilted for me.
Yeah, in terms of like wanting any kind of emotional satisfaction, it's like being starved of nutrients and having to settle for like wall insulation.
I like speaking of wall installation, I like the one scene that I thought was good was when they're in that tent with the weird, creepy, fleshy walls. And Paul's kind of freaking out about his would-be destiny.
Yeah, that was good.
But overall...
He's screaming at his mom and stuff.
Paul was definitely easier to emotionally track with than 84 Dune, where everything is just weird and confusing. Even though it's wonderful, it's Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah.
You could track with New Dune's Paul a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
I like the moment when the witch makes him kneel, and because he's like a princeling, he gets all audacious and shit. He's like, how dare you?
That was pretty good. But the thing is, that scene, even in the other movie, is like, that's like such a great scene in any story that it's super hard to fuck up. So it's not that everything in Dune is bad.
Yeah, no, it just didn't fully coalesce with me, and... I hear there's a 4-hour version of Dune.
Yeah, and I'm tempted.
I'm actually willing to say that version I might love.
I'm tempted.
Because, like, let's take that other character. I actually pulled up her name because she's in the movie so briefly.
What's her name?
She's the woman who gets eaten by a sandworm.
Oh, the
Fremen who's, like, got a foot in each world.
Right.
Her character's name is is Eliott Queens or something. I don't know. The actress is Sharon Duncan Brewster. Remember her?
Yeah, she was cool.
She gets jumped in the desert and dies.
She was one of the characters that actually had something going on.
Yeah, but not enough.
But not enough.
Again, it was like bones on your sandwich. It was very anemic. It was like you just barely got enough about her to understand that she was not super trusting of the Atreides, but then she kind of turns a leaf for Paul and his mom.
Right.
And then in the end, she's about to start her own thing, and she gets knifed and eaten by a worm. And she's kind of like, my loyalty was always to the worm. And I'm like, that was kind of badass, but yeah, the worst example is Josh Brolin's character.
Hold on. You took right out of my mouth or whatever.
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin is so fucking hilarious in this movie.
Yeah, but he's there and then he dies off camera.
No, he's got 2 scenes. He's got 2 lines of dialogue, really.
Well, actually, we don't know.
Well, 3. Maybe 3.
He probably comes back in the second half since we didn't see him.
Oh, probably, maybe.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
But the thing is, I thought he was so hysterical the first time you see him.
They're brutal!
Yeah, exactly. They're brutal! They're human! And you're like, wow.
You're like, that was for the trailer. But yeah, no, there's like, God, it's frustrating because
it's very frustrating.
There's a lot of things that I liked about it, and it wasn't awful enough to just say it was bad. I honestly feel like a longer version where we spend a little bit more time with the characters to kind of Paul, you got each situation he was in.
He's too apathetic.
You got each situation he was in and how it made him feel, but I didn't know who he was as a core person going through those things, because everything just kind of starts.
Everything just sort of starts.
He's already having the visions. That's the first thing we see of him. He's having these visions.
Seen many fucking visions.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, it almost worked for me, but it was definitely not enough for me to think, wow, that was an amazing film. I'm blown away. This is the next great thing. I thought that knife fight at the end was awkward. What I thought was really awkward was the moment when he finally meets up with the girl of his dreams.
Yeah.
Her name is what? Chani. When he finally meets Chani, he like turns around and she's already like behind him with a knife.
Yeah.
Really cool moment.
Yeah.
And that was the moment I needed that emotional satisfaction where he looks at her and she looks at him like, why are you looking at me like that?
Right.
And they kind of have that moment, but
Not
then
really.
he literally just says, it's nothing, never mind.
Yeah, his pupils should have dilated. He
Yeah,
should have been like, it's you!
The
woman
movie.
Of my fucking movie dreams!
Yeah, and even if that doesn't happen in the book, and it didn't even need to be through dialogue, it could have just been through looks.
2.5 hours of him having essentially the same vision of this girl in the desert that he doesn't know over and over and over and over again.
I found
you finally get to the end of it.
Yeah.
There she is. And he's like, hey.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the knife fight ends with a very awkward finishing stab, which was, so it was kind of like, oh, Chani, ooh, wilted. Oh, knife fight, ooh, wilted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, that's the very end of your
fucking
movie with all these huge, impressive visuals. You're gonna have kind of this ending, and also the Baron Harkonnen.
Yeah,
very
Stellan
cool,
Skarsgård.
Very cool and creepy. But
he was probably my favorite part.
But also, I didn't really get anything off of him.
Like,
I didn't really get what he just wants to kill them, power, greed, death. But like, I just didn't really get much of a beat off of him.
Everyone is very two-dimensional.
Everything's very subdued. I think the moment that a person felt the most real to me was when Oscar Isaac is realizing that all the equipment that was left is shitty, and they're gonna fucking die on this planet.
Yeah,
and that they've been set up by the Emperor. It felt more real. That was
probably one of the best. Sort of emotionally,
he kind of was. He felt the most real, and moments of Paul worked for me. But ultimately,
he was probably now that you say Oscar Isaac is probably the best actor in that film.
They're all fine. They're all good actors. It's just there's not the. I pulled up Stargate because Stargate is a way worse example of this. But if you've ever seen the Stargate film, it starts with what's that guy's name? James Spader. James Spader is giving like a lecture to all these other Egyptologists about his like wacky radical idea, and they're all like, blah, 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 no, and he's like, if you guys would just give this idea a chance.
Hold on. Do you have a James Spader impression?
No, I can't do James Spader.
I think I might be able to.
All right, we'll talk about
No,
talk about some weird pyramid theory.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say.
You can
I wasn't gonna go
improvise
that far. I was just gonna say, well, if you just give it a chance, perhaps we could do something actually different, for a change.
I think you got the inflection right there. That wasn't horrible. But yeah, James Spader. That movie starts. James Spader is giving this talk. There's a scene before it, but James Spader is giving this talk, and everyone dismisses him, and we're supposed to immediately give a shit because no one likes his theory, but we know his theory's probably right.
He is James Spader after all.
Yeah, play the little flute, while he's looking solemnly downwards,
Right,
if only people give me a chance, you know. But there's not
dark
that
academia theme music.
And then the movie just starts, and I was watching Stargate, and I was like, there's a scene missing from this because I don't give a fuck about James Spader's character at all.
Yeah.
They gave you that one scene, but they didn't then follow it up with that other scene where he goes back to his apartment, and it's just his cat there.
Yeah.
And he's talking to...
The cat has a seizure and dies
he's talking to his grandfather's urn. And he's like, Grandpa, I'll make them see...
I'll bring you to Egypt one day.
I'll make them see that your theory was right and that the pyramids really are Stargates, and then I'll be validated as a human being finally after all my years of... There was not that extra scene where we care... where we're hooked and we care about the character. Stargate just starts.
Yeah.
And I kind of had that problem with Dune with Paul. The only scene that broke the mold with that was when they're in the tent and he starts freaking out about his destiny.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, that's the only
scene. That scene.
That's a great scene, and to tell you the truth, that's probably, I would agree, it's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Which to me is actually not saying very much. But the witch scene is also really good. Everything with the witches is good. But, and I'll tell you what part I did really like? Where there's all these, human sacrifices hanging upside down on this little pyramid thing, and their warriors are getting their blood on their forehead.
The Sardaukar.
That was awesome.
Honestly, after watching this movie, all I can hear is Jason Momoa yelling, Sardaukar! because it's a gibberish word, and he yells it, with such passion. Also, this is just the general movie thing, but the Sardaukar are so badass. They're the most elite killers, and then Jason Momoa just
kills 14 of them.
14 of them in the hallway, which happens in the book, I'm sure.
Duncan, Idaho.
Yeah.
What a fucking name.
Yeah,
I can't believe that this is the most popular sci-fi novel of all time, and it's got characters like Duncan, Idaho in it, and. I don't know. What a mess.
Well, yeah, no, it's the future, man. People have funny names.
I can't. Well, we heard a little bit from you. I would love for you to ask some. Let me just refill this coffee real quick. I'd like for you to ask me some questions.
Yeah, but basically, in summation, I didn't think the movie was bad, and I think what I really came away with it from was that it felt like it should be a miniseries on Netflix and not a movie because there's just too much story in order to also make us care about each individual character emotionally. For me, and that's like an editing and pacing issue, really, more than anything. Scenes where Paul is just hanging out in that room with that hologram of, the local plants, and he's kind of learning, and he's just... Stuff like that where the movie slows down, and I start to kind of put myself in Paul's shoes is helpful, because 1984 Dune is just, running to get to the end. It's just this weird thing happens, and then this weird thing happens, and you have no idea what any of it emotionally adds up to.
Right.
This Dune did a better job of that, but it's still... I think it would have been way better as a TV series, because there's just so much shit.
TV series, I think, is probably the best idea for it, because you're right, is that there's too much stuff, there's too much backstory, there's too much you have to understand.
And so much they didn't explain to a viewer like you. You didn't know...
I don't know any fucking
You don't
thing.
know what a mentat is. You don't know why there are no robots in the future.
Yeah.
You don't know why... you don't really understand the Empire.
I don't understand why, what is it, takes place in the year 10,000? Like, I can't believe in, like, 800 years, people are still, like, breaking up into clans. Like, that, to me, is, like, the hardest part. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like the material so much, is that it's just so hard for me to believe in 800 years it's going to be, like, a bunch of fiefdoms, like, fighting over, and that there will be barons and dukes in the future. Like, I thought democracy was trying to wipe that shit out.
Yeah, it's very anti-Star Trek, where rather than in the future we have a new, interesting, different government, we regress back into empires and stuff. But that's because Dune is a political allegory meant to be relevant to the current situation.
Well, that's the thing, is it's not relevant to the current.
60s, or whenever it was written.
No, it's not even relevant to the 60s. Like,
well,
it's not. No, it's not. There's nothing fucking about the 60s except for, like, the space-bearing drug.
Yeah, I wanted more of that.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
More psychedelic stuff in the movie.
I mean, one of my reviews about it is that, like, it's amazing that something can take an idea as interesting as a sci-fi psychedelic drug that you have to take to navigate space and time on spaceships and make it fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like, that's a feat.
I'll start asking questions, but yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is that's where 1984 Dune starts to look good in some ways.
It looks great compared to this. It's so entertaining.
Is that while this current Dune is cool and sleek and awesome and stuff like that, it doesn't have that scene where they wheel in a giant puppet in a spice vat. That's cool. It doesn't have that scene where it doesn't have these, like, whoa, what the hell is... Even the big scene where the sandworm was revealed felt kind of underwhelming. It
was in the fucking trailer.
Yeah, it was underwhelming, and you're just kind of like... Where are all those scenes where you go, oh my god, what is this bizarre science fantasy world I am in, and what the heck am I looking at?
Like Sting in his underwear? Yeah, that's way better.
Or the end where the little girl is like psychically attacking people, even though that's not quite, that's later on in the story and stuff, but and not accurate to the book, whatever, but at least all that stuff is weird and memorable and interesting and really strange and sticks out, and this one feels underwhelming in that department. But so you disliked it a lot more than me.
I fucking loathe this movie.
I think that in part could be just our different tastes, and also I knew a little bit more about Dune going into it. So when that guy rolls his eyes in the back of his head and does an equation real quick, I'm like, oh, that's a mentat. That's neat. You know?
That's the thing, is I didn't really care about that. Like, when he rolls his eyes back and comes up with the answer, I was like, oh, that was cool. I don't really need to know anything else about that guy.
You really don't?
No, I mean, I was fine with that. It was like, oh, he's a walking calculator person. That's cool. He's like a data, maybe. He's like a humanoid. Computer, part human. I didn't care about that. That was fine. I was like, oh, all right. And he's got a little weird lipstick on. Yeah. Like, he doesn't know how big his lips are. He gives his lips a little Hitler mustache on the bottom lip. So, nice rouge, though. Very nice rouge. No, I instantly hated the film the moment it started. Because it said, Because it said Dune Part 1. Yeah. And there was no indication on the posters or the promotion that this would be Part 1.
I actually agree with that.
That was when I started.
That felt slightly misleading, actually.
It's slightly misleading. It's completely fucking misleading.
I mean, I knew that it was going to be Part 1, but only because I watched a YouTube channel that's a big Dune fan, yada yada, and they mentioned that. But yeah, nowhere on the it was after it came out, I started seeing it on promotional material. But before it came out,
it was just Dune.
Yeah, it was just Dune.
Dune. And it's like, okay, cool.
And the first Dune had been the whole story, basically.
Yeah, it was like, at least they got the whole thing in there.
Yeah.
So when it said Part 1, I was like, oh, fuck. They're going to make me do so much Dune. I know exactly where this movie is going.
They're going to make you do so much Dune.
I know exactly what this movie's going to do. I know exactly what it's not going to do.
You know it's going to Dune.
So... I mean, I'll just walk you through it. So the movie starts with Dune. It's like, oh man, it's been hyped for like 2 years in the pandemic and everything, and everyone's looking forward to it. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out.
It was delayed,
a couple of times,
I want to say.
And then when it just said like Part 1, I was like, you fucks, because I knew it was gonna have a bad climax. I knew all it was gonna be is backstory. And not enough of it. I knew all it was going to do is set up for the following film, which I hate. I hate it when movies when you get to your second act at the end of your first movie, I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of a rough feeling.
And then I found out that the studio was like, well, we don't know if we can commit to you making the entire book, so why don't you just, do half the book and then we'll think about finishing it. And that whole attitude, I think, is backward and wrong, too. But, given that he had that restriction, I guess, like, the director, and I love that director. He did one of my favorite sci-fi films in the last few years, which is Arrival. I think Arrival is one of the best sci-fi films I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's a really impressive one.
Yeah, and I liked the new Blade Runner enough. So I was really looking forward to this in terms of like, well, this should be something entertaining. And here's the other thing. You shouldn't need to know anything about a book if it's being adapted into a film.
Right.
It should all be in the film.
Yeah.
And even like I see these YouTube videos sometimes where it's like ending explained.
Yeah.
Like famously, like with like Alien Covenant and Prometheus and stuff like that.
Or movies like The Ritual, ending explained, where it's like clearly symbolic and then explain it to you.
Well, The Ritual is just a fine, stupid horror movie.
Right.
It's actually a great movie.
Yeah.
But, whenever I see something that says ending explained, or that something needs to be explained.
Beginning explained. Even the beginning needs to be explained, let alone the ending.
When something needs to be explained in a film, your film is flawed. It's, unless it's like some, artsy, psychological, interesting sort of thing where it's up to interpretation, that's fine. But, if you have to explain why the engineers in Prometheus want to kill humanity, if you need to explain that, you suck.
Yeah.
Dune is full of shit where you shouldn't have to, it should all just be there.
Yeah.
So any jackass who's like, well, you have to read the book before you can watch the movie, is it like, well, then why wouldn't I just
read
actually fuck both of them now? Yeah. So there is that.
And that's why you go back to miniseries.
Yeah, sure. A miniseries would have been good.
The first episode could have just been like, this is the Spice, this is the Galactic Empire, this is the Atreides, these are the Harkonnens, these are the Fremen. Instead of kind of everything's at breakneck speed.
Yeah.
And that's the same problem the original had.
You have no time to
things are moving really fast.
Yeah.
And it's fucking 3 hours of that.
Yeah, and then there's like, this man's a baron and this man's a duke. I don't even know what a baron or a duke is in like normal, like, European history. Like, I have no idea what those fucking things are.
You know what baffled me was, and I don't really get it. The Atreides, when the people are showing up to give the Atreides the planet Arrakis, when they're showing up to give them Dune,
the ceremonial thing.
There's all those people behind them going, Atreides! I'm kind of like, who are those people? Like, were they just people born on Caladan and therefore they have to serve?
No, those are the soldiers.
Atreides? Did they even volunteer?
No, even though I know that the Atreides have built a giant army, which is not depicted well in the film. Even I know that.
Well, yeah, and even I know, going back to feudal history, that you don't know.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I feel like a lord or a baron.
All I know is I'm a serf now.
Yeah, there you go.
But go on.
Yeah, if you're a lord or a baron, you've got, like, I suppose you're supposed to serve the emperor or the king, but you've got...
Your local lordship.
It's your job to raise up some people in that area, to raise hell.
Yeah, in fact, that scene when they were like,
it's all feudal stuff, and therefore not the future.
Yeah, there you go. That's true, too.
And that's what's so fun about Star Trek, even though they don't do a good job of directly answering a lot of questions, just the fact that they have some kind of weird techno-futuristic space communism with a replicator that can solve all of your worldly wants and stuff.
Let me go on, though.
Oh, sure.
When they were like, Atreides, I was like, I'm not pumped. I don't know why anyone here is pumped. I don't get it at all. The only thing I really liked about the movie was, like, the weather on Caladan looked really nice and wet and rainy. That looked really nice. And I liked Paul Atreides' jacket, where the Prince Paul walking around looking at that cool fucking jacket. I want that jacket. I will cosplay by that jacket.
And you like
I like the still suits.
Yeah, the desert
still suits are fucking cool and everything.
Yeah.
The blue eyes looked ridiculous. The psychic shit was fine. I really liked the psychic voice stuff. That was cool.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin was hysterically bad. Jason Momoa, who has way more screen time than anyone should possibly give him. You said he's like, except for like the man is eye candy, but I think he's also short. Anyway,
No,
I know, I'm just kidding.
It's very
But, everyone talks about how great he is in Game of Thrones, and I always argue, like, well, doesn't he speak, like, a foreign language that no one can understand? I mean, people are like, Mila Jovovich is great in The Fifth Element. That's because she's speaking a language no one can understand. Have you ever seen her in anything else? So
it's all eyebrow acting.
It's all eyebrow acting.
Especially when it comes to Khal Drogo.
Yeah, and, the big problem was that I didn't care about anything except for I was just, like, waiting for something. I was waiting for anything to grab me and make me excited about the adventure on Arrakis. And nothing did. And the thing is, even, like, the idea of, like, oh, you find your true love on this planet. Like, that's fun. That could have been cool. But, like, you wait and here's the other thing. He's got, like, 6 fucking visions of this chick in the desert. Like, 6. And, like, you needed, like, 2 or 3. But it's just like, oh, here's this girl again. Oh, she's always, like, looking over her shoulder. It's, like, breezy, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. And, he finally, like we already said, he finds her, and he's like, hey. And it's like, you've just been dreaming about this girl. Yeah. She's been haunting your world. Witches have shown up because of this girl.
Well, yeah, and also, forget how it goes in the book. Just us as an audience, we needed something more in that moment. Even if it was just a longer stare down between the two of them with a tension hook in the background playing,
Yeah, or even just him go like, it's you. Yeah, just something.
And he didn't even need to say that. That could have been just him thinking that, like, narration really loud, like the voice. Anything just to give that moment more weight. Because, like, the final stab is also awkward. It's like, no, the final stab of a knife fight, that's the end of your movie.
Fucking heart.
And it should be framed not awkwardly.
Yeah, and you should have some blood.
It was kind of like a freehand thing, but anyway, no.
And then it just ends with them walking into the desert. Like, we'll see you in the sequel, folks. Maybe something will happen then. Like, I have never seen. So that's one of the reasons why I hated the movie. Because the thing is that, like, everyone's like, why did you, like, hate this movie? Mm-hmm. And it's because, it's so much hype around it, but you can't really blame a movie for that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I watched the first half of it really late at night. Mm-hmm. And I ended up kind of falling asleep. And I woke up the next day going, like, it couldn't have been that bad. Like, I was just sleepy. And so I watched it again from front to back. And when I finally got to that ending, I was just I just felt so, like rolled over and fucked. It was like being promised, like, a really, really good date by a really, really hot, like I said, it's got a lot of pretty people in it.
Sure.
Saying things. Mm-hmm. But, it was like being promised a really, really hot, sexy date where all this wonderful shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And, you get anus worm filled with teeth. The Hellfire rockets were cool. I thought it
was supposed to be a pupil, but it didn't look like
it didn't look like a pupil at all. It looked like an anal wink, which is a real medical term. One last thing is that the force fields. I still don't understand the force fields. Don't explain it to me because the movie fucking should have and it didn't. Not really.
Yeah.
And it's like, they blip blue and then they blip red when you broken through the thing. And I was like, this looks like I'm watching, like, Pac-Man or something.
Yeah, I really...
There's no emotional resonance.
Yeah, no, I really didn't like...
It looked like a pinball game.
Yeah, no, visually I thought it looked terrible.
It looks awful.
I understand how the force field worked, and I still don't understand some of the action I was looking at. Just to be real quick, it's supposed to stop fast-moving projectiles like bullets and lasers and stuff.
Okay.
But
it can stop a laser? Like the laser that cut through the wall?
No, actually, I think if a laser hits it, it explodes. But we're getting into the nitty-gritty of that sci-fi universe.
Well, I don't understand it at all.
For the purposes of this movie, the idea is that shield is it forces everyone to be reduced to hacking and stabbing each other like medieval times because it stops most projectiles.
And then, I
believe that's the idea.
Okay, I got you.
But that still is confusing because there's scenes when Jason Momoa is fighting the Sardaukar in the hallway, and some of his hits are getting through and others are being blocked. Like, it goes blue,
I didn't understand
and then it goes
anything.
red.
Yeah.
And if everyone's going to run into a field and stab each other and no one's going to use projectiles because everyone's got the shield, why not just take the shield off and stab each other But yeah, you're right. The red and blue glowy effect
That was awful.
was very not cinematic.
Oh yeah,
It was very.
It was juvenile,
goofy looking.
It was very. It looked like something from a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, red and blue, like that was.
Yeah, that's like they couldn't press on.
Yeah, like if you want to indicate they're wearing force fields, maybe something more subdued than red and blue. Like, how does the force field's like, ooh, that was a kill shot.
Kill shot.
Like, it's kind of goofy. Yeah, it's really kind of goofy.
You could have done something. I think it was like, even in the David Lynch version of the force fields are like way weirder and like way more fun.
Yeah, very goofy. But yeah, no, I ultimately agree with you that like, yeah, you kind of got excited just from the premise of the film of what it's trying to sell you.
And it looked really pretty.
Yeah,
and it was very pretty.
Yeah, but yeah, at the
end, the music was really cool.
You know, I mean, it's been a long time since this movie came out, and it may be a goofy example, but when you saw V for Vendetta, you remember that film?
Sure.
That film's goofy and has lots of problems with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Looking back on it now, but when you walked out of the theater, you were like, whoa,
that was cool.
I went on a ride.
Yeah, that was a good ride. And there's emotion.
Characters felt things and were devastated,
mm-hmm.
and stuff happened. Even if you weren't wrapped up in the politics of it, at the end you could tell some kind of emotional gratification was attempted.
Yeah, it worked.
And the end of this film. I really wanted to be more interested in Paul's stuff because it's a pretty cool, weird situation for a person to be in where they're having all these dark visions of their destiny.
Yeah, I wish Paul was, because the thing is, Paul is trying to be portrayed as being tortured, but he's just so blank-faced during most of the movie.
That's not for me, it's not that he's blank-faced, it's that the movie doesn't take the time, because I thought the actor was great, the movie doesn't take the time to have these scenes, like, we don't check in on him enough, I feel like, to where I understand where he's going and where he's coming from. Like, after that scene in the tent where he's like, get away from me, Mom, the next scene in the morning, she's, like, helping him with his suit, and he's still going along with her. And I'm like, what's he really thinking? What's he really feeling? Where's he really coming from?
That's what I felt like the entire time he was on screen.
What is it about him that is precious that I don't want him to be hurt? I want him to succeed. Like, I just watched Get Out, and, like, the whole time, like, one of the things that movie does the best is that you care so much about Chris, and you don't want these bad things to happen to him, because the emotional stakes are made very clear. And I guess that's what the problem with this film is that the emotional stakes don't feel clear.
I don't think there are any.
Yeah, and if you're going to have a weird sci-fi world, it's very easy for things to feel detached and cold. So you need some kind of emotional core to make sure people care about what's going on the screen.
Yeah, all right. Well, I guess that's basically everything we could possibly say about it. I would recommend, like, what's a better sci-fi film for people to watch, Max?
Ariana?
Yeah, I was going to say Aniara.
Aniara?
Yeah, Aniara.
If you want to watch sci-fi, a far-out sci-fi idea that emotionally tracks the whole time.
Yeah, it's incredibly emotional.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
I would agree with Aniara. I would also recommend Space Cop. Space Cop is great. Fantastic film. Neglected in the annals of cinema.
Yeah, no. If you want a mind-blowing psychedelic social commentary that's gonna just rip down the walls of your mind,
Space Cop.
Space Cop.
Far more than Dune.
Oh gosh.
All right. Well, thanks for.
I didn't hate it that much, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, Max didn't hate it that much. Didn't land for him. The second I saw Dune Part 1, I knew what I was in for, and I regretted minute after minute that I sat there.
I'm curious about the 4-hour cut.
I'm curious about the 4-hour cut, because I wonder
if it tracks a little better.
I wonder if it tracks a little better, and because if it's even worse...
Then yeah.
Wow.
And that's just more bones in your sandwich.
Thanks, Max. I'll see you later. I have to get ready for work.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, bye, guys. Thanks for wasting time with us.
Yeah.
Feel free to watch Dune.